So in this section, we are going to initialize your FMC and the FTD. So what we have currently is we have set up this topology in Eve, and this is how my setup looks like. So we have got a single FTD now, and this FTD is connected over your Ethernet 0, that is management port, to the management network. In my case, it is 192.168.1.0/24. My FMC is also plugged to the management network using the Ethernet 0 interface. And my base PC is also connected in the same management network, by using which I'll be configuring my FTD and the FMC. All right. Now the FTD has got, apart from the management interface, it has got three interfaces. One is inside, which is G0/1. One is going to the DMZ zone, that is G0/2. And one is the outside zone over G0/0. And the networks are respectively like that. For inside, I've taken 10.11.11.0, a private IP subnet. For DMZ, again, a private subnet of 172.16.1.0. And I'm considering a pseudo public IP, which is kind of 192.1.20.0 network for the outside subnet. Now, this is my edge router of my company. Now, this edge router, let us say I have got some public addresses behind it. So every routers will have a loopback IPs inside them, as you can see. And this particular edge router also has connectivity to the real internet, and this interface is actually it's kind of bridged with my wireless device. So this interface is configured for DHCP. Using DHCP, this interface is getting the IP address from my modem. Okay, and it will have a default route via the modem, and because of which it can go and reach to the world of any public IPs, right? And also I'll be configuring this device as a NAT device, so that it can NAT this particular pseudo public IP that I'm considering to the outside interface. So let's say I'm going to do a dynamic path over here on this particular router, so it will actually translate all this pseudo public IP subnet to the outside interface IP address when the traffic is trying to leave. Okay, so that's the whole setup. Now, one thing initially to notice, when you power on this FMC and the FTD, what I've done is, if you just right click on the devices, you can check what's the amount of resources you gave. This is my FMC over here. If I just unlock this, right click on edit, and I have given here 6 vCPUs and 16 GB of RAM, and I've got 5 interfaces for this running, and I'm running here the version 6.3. Likewise, on the FTD, you can check it's also 6.3 code. I've got here 4 CPUs, that's 4 virtual CPUs, and 16 gigs of RAM with 5 Ethernet interfaces, and that will work fine. Now, when you initially power on this FMC and the FTD for the very first time, what happened is, I wanted to wipe it because it was running with some previous configuration. So let's wipe this. And then all the other devices are actually wiped, so they don't have any configurations now. Now, initially, when you power on this FMC and the FTD, they take a bit of time to come up. Let's say around 30 minutes of time to come up. So I would recommend, initially, in the very beginning, when you do so, to ensure that you wait for the 30 minutes time and take a break and come back, and then you start the configurations on the FMC and the FTD. So let's power on all the devices one by one. So in the inside, I have got, some 2 routers, and behind these 2 routers, I've got 2 LAN segments represented by the loopback interfaces. I've got an inside user to demonstrate. On the DMZ, I've got a DMZ edge router that goes and talks to certain loopback IPs. I'm considering that as my DMZ server IPs, like that, right? So let them power on. Now we have Ultra VNC already installed with this EVNG, so I can open that console in the Ultra VNC. So this is my FMC, and I'm opening the console of FTD as well. With the name you can distinguish, this is the console of FTD. All right. And this is the console of your FMC. Here we go. And they are kind of getting initialized right now. So what we're doing is we are initializing the FTD and the FMC and my job will be to add this particular FTD appliance to the FMC so that we can centrally manage it. All right, so the topic is basically initializing the FMC, and the FTD, and then we will be adding the FTD appliance into the FMC. Okay, so let's pause for some time till it actually comes up, gets initialized, and once it is up, let's give 30 minutes of time, and then we can actually start the initialization and configuration of FMC and FTD. We'll look from scratch. All right, so we can see that my FTD and the FMC is now initialized. So this is my FMC's console. Let me actually go there and increase a little bit of the font size. All right, so it is initialized. It took around 1 hour of time. So initially it takes a bit of time for the initialization to happen. Once this is done, so then things will be normal. So it gives you a prompt for a username and a password to log in. Just to remember, the default username and the password for FMC and FTD is this. So let me write it down here. So this is my default username is gonna be admin, and the default password is gonna be admin123, where A is in capital. Okay, so here my default username is admin. Oops, sorry, let's close that. Here we go. So this would be admin, and then the password is admin123, and it gives me the Linux prompt, right? So the device is logged in, it's initialized, and we have used the default username and the password for logging in. Okay, so once you do that, you have to give a command. So my job is to go and configure a management IP address as per the plan. So this would be 192.168.1.75.24 /24 from this management network. So let me go and configure this IP address. To do that, I have to give a command here, which is sudo configure-network, hit enter. Then it asks you the password. So password is admin123, where A is in uppercase. It gives you a prompt. It says, do you wish to configure IPv4? Yes or no? So yes, I want to configure IPv4. And what is the management IP you take? And this is the default IP. What if you say enter? So this is the default IP what FMC would take. So in my case, it is 192.168.1.75. Hit enter. You want to take the default mask of /24, or you can just type in of your choice. So this /24. I do not want any default gateway as of now, but yeah, just for the heck of it, I can say 192.168.1.1 is my default gateway from the management side. Add the settings correct. So my IP, the mask, and the default gateway. It is correct so far. I say yes. Do you use to configure IPv6? At this point of time, I should say no. I'm okay with IPv4 and hit enter. And now this will update my network configuration on the management port of the FMC. So let's wait for that to happen. It takes around a couple of minutes. In the meantime, let's go and configure this, this inside routers and this DMZ router and this outside router. Okay, let's go there and do that. So along with that, so let me go, and I have secure CRT running here. So let me go and use secure CRT and open that. So router 1, router 2 is on the DMZ, router 3 is outside, and that's another internal router. All right. So based on the plan, I'm on router 1. It gives me that initial configuration dialog. I'll say no. I want to configure it using my generic command line. So I want to give no to all the routers over here. Let's do that. Done. So now what you do is, this is router 1. In that case, global config mode, host name is say R1 inside. As the host name, the interface, the physical port is E00, no shut, IP add, the IP is 10.11.11.1, and this is the mask. I have a couple of loopbacks here, so loopback 0, the IP is 10.1.1 and /24, and I have got loopback 1, the IP is 10.2.2.2/24. Doesn't take slash, so I have to give the mask alongside with it. Now if you see do show IP interface brief, I have the respective IPs, which is the loopbacks as well as the physical interface. They're all up. Okay. At this point, I can say write all the configurations. I save all my configurations there. Looks good to me. Likewise, let's configure R4, the inside router of R4. Let's do that. So that says host name is R4 inside, and I have here interface E0/0, and this is no shut, and the IP address is gonna be 10.11.11.4. So since it is R4, my host address is .4, like that. I use a couple of loopbacks, which is 10.4.4.4, and I have got interface loopback 1, which is say 5.5.5.5 as an example. Again on /24. If I see here show IP interface brief, I put a couple of loopbacks, one physical interface, they're all up. Looks good to me. Write all the configurations there, save it. Let's go and configure the DMZ router. So this would be router 2 for me. Here we go. So router 2, this is gonna be host name R2-DMZ, and let's say the interface, this is the physical port whose IP is 172.16.1.2. Since the router is R2, so I'm giving the host address as .2 here. A couple of loopbacks, so I'm representing that behind this DMZ router. I've got a couple of loopbacks as my DMZ servers. So loopback says 0, 10.3.3.3 as per the topology, and I've got interface loopback 1, this next loopback. This is actually 10.4.4.4. Here we go. So now if I see show IP interface brief, and also include with the keyword as up, you can see the interfaces that is currently up and active. So as for the plan, 3 interfaces were there. Looks good to me. Perfect. Let's go and configure router 3. So host name it's R3 say edge. This is my edge router of my company, through which I connect my the company's firewall, and it is facing to the ISP router. So on R3 edge, I go and configure a couple of loopbacks. So loopback is 199.1.1.1. I'm representing that I have got some public IPs behind this edge router, just in case if I want to ping it. And interface loopback 1 over here is 200.1.1.1. Here we go. And interface E0/1, the physical interface, which is facing towards the firewall. This is gonna be 192.1.20.3. That's pseudo public internet that I'm representing here. All right. Now this E00 should be configured with DHCP, because this is facing towards my modem, the real modem. So what I can do is I can go to interface E0/0. I can say no shut, and I can say IP address using DHCP. So give it a sec. You can get the IP address from DHCP's process. Okay. And if I wait to see here, show IP interface brief, we've got a message here saying that interface E00 assigned with DHCP and the IP is .6. That's good. And you can see the IP has been assigned to E00 using DHCP. It's up currently. Looks good. Because of which, what will also happen is you'll have a default route. So if I see show IP route, you have a default route with an AD value of 254 because that is, kind of a DHCP way of installing a default gateway on your local device. Looks good. So you've got all connected networks, plus you've got a default route via the gateway of your modem. Looks good. And what you need is you need a NAT so that this pseudo public internet subnet can access the internet. For doing this, what I can do is I can write an access list. So access list say 1, where I'm just going to permit this specific network 192.1.20.0 0.0.0.255, and I'll go and enable NAT engines. So interface E01, this will be IP NAT inside. Give it a sec for the NAT process to begin. All right, so next is interface E0/0. This is going to be IP NAT outside. Done. So NAT is enabled, and then I have to configure dynamic path on the outside interface for this 192.120.0/24 pseudo public subnet. So to do that, I have to go and configure a dynamic path. Command is ipnat inside source list, and the ACL is ACL number 1 that is holding this subnet of 492, and the interface is basically E0/0 with a keyword of overload doing dynamic patch. All right. So once we're done with this, let's go and try to ping. So from this edge router, if I try to reach, 8.8.8.8, so basically I'm trying to reach, public DNS. So I consider my 8.8.8, that is a public DNS, Google DNS. It is situated behind this modem. So behind here, I have public DNS server sitting. Now from R35 ping, so basically it will use this external interface as the source IP to reach to that destination device. And since we have got a default route, my gateway is a .1, and we have got a default route pointed via this particular .1, this route should be, reachable. Okay, so let's test that out. So ping this, hit enter. First pings might fail because it has to do NAT, it has to do ARP and all the stuff. We'll do reping it once again. Let's see that one more time. Yes, right. So we have got reachability to the internet now, the real internet, and also to test that if your pseudo internet is also reaching the real internet, you can do that. So ping 8.8.8.8. Now you can change the source IP to your E0/1 IP address, which would be 192.1.20.3. And you can see even these pings are successful because this is getting via dynamic patch. Okay, so if you see show IP NAT translations, and you can see that your inside local is translated to inside global address in order to reach the destination IP. Right, looks good to me. So I can say right here, and I can also rename this particular icons. So this is say rename R1 as R1-INS. So I quickly remember what is that. R2 is basically my DMC, so it is R2 for DMC. R3 is basically my outside router, so this is R3 edge. And R4, this is kind of my inside again. All right, looks good to me. Now going back to your FMC, because we have configured the management IP on the FMC, and it was actually getting restarted. So when you hit enter now, you see that it has been taken, right? So So you can see the IP address over here as 192.168.1.1, I mean 1.75, and it is saying to browse to this particular management IP using HTTPS to finish the installation.